So we have our fantastic moderator, Gordon Einstein, that's going to be joining us on stage to moderate this. And we also have Anshul Dahir, the co-founder of EasyFi, Akash Gaurav, the founder of Revera Money, Ajit Khurana, the founder of Reflexical, and Biber Broker, the founder of the Ministry of Justice of Latvia. So please come to stage. Gordon, take it from here. Here you go.
I'm very impressed with everyone who's still in this room. So I want to give you all, I want us to clap our hands for you, for being here for the last panel of the day. I'm in shock you're here, and I love you for it. So a big round of applause to you in the audience. That's fantastic. Is this a fireside chat with one wonderful lady, or? Okay, there you go. Anyone else? Can we get the microphones? Do you have microphones? Anyone else from the panel? And then there was you? Are you with us? Okay. Or you can be a random friendly person. Hi, Gordon. Ajit. Oh, great. Okay, good. Pleasure. We need a microphone. Okay, I'm going to stand up because I feel like it, and it's the end of the day, and I've been sitting all day, so just don't mind me, okay? So the topic is near and dear to my heart, of course, is decentralized finance, or DeFi. How many of you in the audience were here for the earlier exchange panel? No one? You're all, okay, someone. Fine, raise your hand if you weren't here. Raise your hand if you're not going to raise your hand no matter what I say because you're not listening. Okay, there you go. We got someone. Okay, so decentralized finance is close to my heart. Part of the discussion we were having during the exchange conversation was whether the future is centralized finance or decentralized finance. And part of, the premise is, can DeFi become the new normal by 2030? And of course, there's a big question there, which is, should it become the new normal by 2030? And then we'll get into, can it get into it? Now, what I always like to do at the beginning of each of these panels is have our panelists briefly introduce themselves. So name, title, why Latvia is the best, and what you're working on now. So give us a minute or so, or two, for you at least, giving some background, your Wolverine origin story, and then we'll get into the topic. So please, ladies first.
Thank you for this opportunity. Yes, my name is Bohri-Community-Dubai, so I'm a legal and financial advisor for fintech projects, and coming actually from centralized capital markets and being in academia more than 20 years, teaching international contracts and foreign direct investments. I've been also Minister of Justice in Latvia, and Latvia is one of the countries where we do live technology. We are a small country, so we can't surprise the world with something different than only with our intelligence and being really quite active in promoting computer science as the way how we can promote our economy. And because of my political and practical experience, also an academia experience, right now I'm a member of the international intergovernmental organization UNIDROIT, which is an institute adopting conventions and international legal instruments to promote international trade. And so we are working right now for international documents, digital assets and private law, which will be document to help national legislators to foster and to adopt laws that would facilitate all the business related to digital assets. And
you love decentralized finance, yes?
Yeah, yes.
Fantastic. Please, name, rank, serial number.
Hey everyone, I'm Akash. I'm the founder of Revera. It's an on-chain asset management platform. I have been in crypto space for over 7 years now. When I entered into this space, it was all about Bitcoin and Ethereum, the crypto assets, how they are banking the unbanked, changing the world, but at that time we have been missing something very big. Because while these crypto assets have started providing this transfer, this decentralized transfer of value, this decentralized service, such as what we see today in the centralized finance, such as the banks, the exchanges, the entire capital market, that didn't existed then. And it really limited the potential of what and where crypto assets can grow and go. Then the DeFi, ultimately the innovators came up with the DeFi, and now we are building this entire infrastructure on the vision of Bitcoin to ground up and making this a complete decentralized service economy.
Okay, so you're into decentralization also, clearly. Then we'll dive into it. Okay, Ajit, please.
Hey guys, my name is Ajit Khurana. I'm founder of Reflexical. Reflexical is an ecosystem play where we help Web3 companies grow. So right since a very young age, I made one decision in life that if I wanted to be rich, then I would have to do things which others were not doing. As a result, I was always attracted to the innovative. Way back in the 90s and the 2000s, met things on the internet. But in 2014, when I discovered Bitcoin for the first time, I took all of 5 to 10 minutes studying it before realizing that it made no sense. But
Hey, no, sorry, I'm gonna totally jump in. When did you discover Bitcoin for the first time?
so I started studying Bitcoin for the first time in 2014. I heard of it way back in 10.
When?
2014,
14,
August.
okay, new.
August
Kinda.
2000, yeah. So having spent a little bit of time, at like literally 5 minutes, I said, this is weird, doesn't make sense. But because, like I said, I've always been attracted to the extraordinary, I studied it for a solid 2 years before getting wholly into it. Eventually, I became head of the Blockchain and Cryptocurrency Committee, which was the Indian body that eventually took the Reserve Bank of India to the Supreme Court to overturn one of their only judgment or circular so far as crypto is concerned. I became CEO of ZepPay, which at that point was India's largest exchange, and took it from one country to, well, technically 132 countries, but for all practical purposes, about 84 countries. Worked with regulators in Malta, Singapore, Australia, and India, and hopefully soon in UAE also. And I think that DeFi, despite being so promising, has two inherent contradictions, which someday will be overcome. But I think that at this point, that is what is preventing it from taking off, and we'll talk about that.
We'll get into that. Now, Mohammed from Islamic Coin, I'm going to ask you a question that has nothing to do with DeFi, but has to do with Islamic Coin, because something in your presentation caught my ear, right? And maybe it's just a language thing. It might just be a language thing. Is it that interest can lead to riba, or is interest a form of riba?
Well, interest is a form of riba. It's not something can lead to riba. Interest itself is a riba, and it is not allowed in the Islamic finance.
Okay, because it may just been a language thing. The presentation says interest, I think it said interest can lead to riba. I was like, really? Is there a non-riba interest? But it sounds like no. It sounds like interest.
Any interest is considered as a riba, and if that's written somewhere, we'll correct it.
Okay, I've dabbled in Islamic finance, and I was wondering if there's some thing I missed. Okay, so now please name, rank, serial number, and I'm curious. We'll get into it. I'm curious if Islamic Coin interfaces with DeFi at all. That's going to be an interesting topic. So please.
So first of all, I'm Mohammed Al-Kaf Al-Hashmi, and I'm a computer science engineer. I focus on artificial intelligence, and then most of the business I've been doing in life, it was related to technology and to automation and artificial intelligence. But recently, the last 2 years, I was thinking a lot about the blockchain and the cryptocurrency and this world, the decentralized world, and how we can contribute. I've seen a lot of projects, and I've been analyzing them. Some of them make sense, some of them doesn't make sense. But I got to a conclusion that, first of all, Bitcoin success because it is the first coin, and Ethereum catch a big success because also it's the first to introduce smart contracts. So I was looking for something along with my co-founders that will we can be the first to provide to the community, and also it can address a huge community. And then we found that, first of all, the Muslim community is more than 1.8 billions, and then the Islamic or the Sharia compliant finance is still not served in a very good way in the decentralized world, and we decided to start the first Sharia compliant ecosystem to provide the community with all what they need when they want to do the Sharia finance activity on the blockchain itself. And we've been quite blessed. I'm not going to repeat what I have said in the keynote speaking, so the people will not feel bored, but we got a very good success track record. I can say that we are now have signed a partnership with the biggest halal food entity in Brazil called Fambras. They want to do all their operations on our blockchain. We are signing soon with the cat funds. We are signing with some universities, and a lot of things coming soon up to the picture. Thank you.
Very good. Okay, so let's give a round of applause for our guests as we start our panel. I just like having people applaud. It's raising energy in the room. Okay, good. This is going to be the best panel all day, people. I promise it. Okay, so before we get into the question about whether or not DeFi can become the new normal in 2030, the question is, should it? There's a normative question. As in, should DeFi replace traditional or centralized finance? Or, as we said earlier, is the tip of the spear kind of breaking new ground as CFI follows up behind it? It's a fuzzy question, but, well, you're a lawyer. We'll ask you. Go.
Yes, I think yes, because I think it should, and it's not only replace, but to find this merger, because DeFi can bring and solve those problems which centralized finance is having. And I think society just...
I'm going to really interrupt as a host just because I want to keep it...
Yeah.
I want to grab every good point you say. So DeFi can do things that CFI can't.
Yeah.
Like
it can be faster, no intermediaries, this decentralization, immutable, and transparency. These are 5 things, and better customer experience, which you can get. So I think these are like 6 points which I think, that decentralized finance can solve.
Interesting. So from a normative point of view, these are advantages why DeFi should win.
Yeah, and it's already proven that that's a way how we can solve something that centralized finance is fighting with.
Got it. Akash.
Yeah, I absolutely believe so. I am building in DeFi now for past 3 years, and of course and this has come after realization of even working for 5 more years in the crypto space. And the answer is very simple, that if one believes in crypto, that's where the next evolution of crypto is going to be. Without DeFi, crypto is incomplete. And that's one of the major promise itself for this entire industry to grow into. Other than that, definitely there are a lot of advantages, and these same advantages that extends which Bitcoin bring into the world, which Ethereum continued, and then DeFi is building so that these crypto assets can be made available, or can be made available in the same fashion, same democratization, same decentralization, same accessibility to everyone, and that's very important. So,
okay, so I'm going to go to Ajit and Mohammed. I'm going to pose the question slightly different to you. I want you to play devil's advocate a little bit. What can go wrong, or what's a reason or a function or ongoing use of centralized finance that is legit or has some kind of argument behind it? Why wouldn't DeFi take over?
I'm going to give 2 quick reasons. Reason number 1, unless we think of DeFi as, the rebellious fringe activity of finance, if we want to bring it mainstream, it is paradoxical that we need the blessings of the centralized system, like the central banker, the ministry, the government, etc. So the central big boys have to give blessings to the decentralized guy to bring it mainstream. And the second paradox is, at least the way DeFi has evolved presently, and I foresee it evolving in the next few years, while there will be the core of decentralized finance, but around it will be all these highly centralized entities, who are trying to facilitate it, create a wallet, make an exchange, make the payment rails, etc. So it is a centralized finance which is leading to decentralized finance in the near future.
Mohammed, well, why might centralized finance or legacy finance win?
Okay, so let me look at it from different prospects. I don't look at the DeFi or, let's say, decentralization or centralization as something should replace each other. It actually can work very closely, can work together, can be complementary to each other. I mean, if we go a little back with the history, when the online banking started, when the e-commerce started, still at that time, the people are not trusting it a lot. They are feeling unsafe. Lot of regulations, lot of tools, lot of things needed to be developed to make it more mature. I believe this decentralized market now is at the same stage with the development of more tools that might also use advanced technology like AI, machine learning, or whatever. It will help, first of all, the regulators and the policy makers to track everything that's happening and to have idea and clear knowledge of what is going in this world and how the transactions is happening. Then, on the other hand, the centralized, or let's say the CeFi, they need also to be more open a little bit. I mean, DeFi is
more of a...
more open
to the
okay. DeFi world, because the DeFi, it didn't come to take them out. It come to cover a gap that was there since long time. And with
I'm sorry, are you sure that DeFi hasn't come to take them out? Are you sure about that? Because yes. I think there's at least part of the community that's the goal, that they're building financial Legos that they can build this alternative system that will consume or leave in the dust what happened. You can argue maybe that's not the best result, but I'm sure some people are intending that.
Okay, let me put it in or explain it in a different way. Now, DeFi to work, does it need, as our brother said, a centralized exchanges, yes? To buy cryptocurrency, don't you need to pay dollars or dirhams or some centralized money? So both needs each other. This cannot success without this. So there is a need for both to success. I don't think there is something to replace something. Maybe in future we see that DeFi will take more market share or more community than the CeFi, but it's not there to replace it. Who will pay it?
I'm going to say on you, so given that our title is, does DeFi, can it become the new normal by 2030? So I don't know if you're a betting man or wagering man. Maybe we'll use the politically correct term. It's the year 2030. Is DeFi still in the shadow of centralized finance? Are they kind of co-equal partners? Is it nosing ahead? What do you think?
Yeah, from this prospect, I can say that DeFi, my personal expectation, it will be the main trend in fintech by that time, unless something new showed up. Technology, unpredictable. A lot of things are happening every day. But if things moves at the same rhythm we are seeing now, it's going to be the main fintech trend in the future, because it's no-brainer to think that people will pay less charges on transactions. It's more transparent in the blockchain. It's fast. It works 24/7, and it has more freedom to do a lot of things you want to do. Always we say technology is ahead of regulations.
Well, that seems to always be the case,
yeah.
But now it's on steroids. So I'll come back to our wonderful attorney. I keep on hearing arguments that DeFi needs to get regulated. Same usual kind of Gordon question. There's a normative question, then there's a technical question, which is, should DeFi be regulated? I mean, it is DeFi after all. And the second question is, can it even be regulated? It's smart contracts. They're published on a chain. The people who publish them, it's like Satoshi. They can disappear to Mars and never show their face again, and these things still work. Should we regulate them, and can you even regulate them?
definitely, as we've seen, all the events happened 2022. Of course, you know, regulators are very keen and curious how to find the right balance to put some rules and regulations in place just to protect financial stability, consumers and investors in cases when we talk about custody of digital assets, when we talk about insolvency issues, and this is something which deserves to be evaluated and some regulation should be in place. But it's a challenge how to balance that we do not over-regulate and block the technology. I think for regulators it's very important. And at the same time, also we have to understand this government and legislators' position. All the countries' success of functioning, it depends on the stability, financial stability. And that's why if we would go, if we will give away all the control on absolutely decentralized manner, probably none of the political power will allow to do this, right? So
say that last point.
So any of the political power will not let to happen, that it will go to the absolutely decentralized way. So it always should be some balance. And I think already today, if somebody is saying that centralized finance is unregulated, it's not true. We as lawyers, we know there's already a lot of rules and regulations in place which any business have to follow. You know, it's not that, you know, that there's still, you know, how to combat financial crimes.
Well, okay, so that's sort of the technical question.
Yeah.
Like smart contracts, like Bitcoin doesn't know we exist. Bitcoin doesn't care about us. Bitcoin doesn't read the law, and you can't arrest it. You can't arrest Uniswap. So how do you? I know you can regulate the software developers and maybe the people, the humans working with it, but how do you actually regulate it?
Yeah, you see, there is some of the attempts also when we talk about who is governing all these solutions, about the communities, about the decentralized autonomous organizations, what could be a legal status of them. And we've seen already, like Wyoming state has passed a law saying that DAO can be registered as a limited liability company. Marshall Islands have also that it could be non-profit limited liability company. We see those attempts to structure somehow. Why? Because, as I told, the key is to protect consumers from wrongdoings, especially that there is a breach of the fiduciary duty, custody. We will see some attempts logically coming into a space and regulate some parts of decentralized finance.
Okay, Akash, Ajit, I'm gonna lump you together. Should we regulate it? Can we regulate it? And feel free to argue with each other. But go first, Akash.
Well, one thing for sure that if it will be regulated, the regulators have to become innovators, because they cannot apply the same type of, you know, this current regulation is based on the past 500 to 1,000 years of evolution of money. You know, how this entire broker-based financial system that evolved in this past 1,000 years. Now, if we are looking to regulate, if we want to regulate it, we cannot apply those same principles, because in this case, the decentralization completely changed the core aspect of how the centralized finance has been built upon. And in order to do that, definitely I believe that at some level, regulation will be important to protect users, to protect consumers, businesses, and everyone. But yeah, it's a very tricky question, and I think that's one of the main question as well, that can regulators solve this so that by 2030 it can become mainstream.
So let me give you a specific use case. It's year 2030 and Uniswap version 6 is live and immutable on the final version of Ethereum, which just now came out, because gosh knows it won't come out until then, obviously. All right, so Ethereum finally works. Okay, it's the year 2030, and Uniswap version 6 is out, and it's published, and it's immutable. Can you even regulate it? Like, what do you do?
So, as I said, it definitely cannot be on the basis of how we currently regulate. If we want to regulate, because currently we regulate people, we regulate entities. Now, if it's a decentralized, finance, now the the philosophy of regulation will have to disparately change towards the decentralized world? Now, it's a very good question, and if we try to wrap our heads around it, that how do you regulate Uniswap? So I think we will have to go at the very basic question. Why do you want to regulate? What is that you want to achieve by the regulation?
We have to see what is going wrong.
Exactly, right. So now, what is going wrong is, I would say, is very broad. We will have to, as we said, it's going to be hard to wrap our head around, because that's how, that's how the system we have been living in, that's how the system we have seen, that's what we have learned in the textbooks. And maybe I'm wrong, maybe it doesn't need to be regulated and it cannot be regulated.
Maybe.
But
so,
as I said,
I want to pass it to Ajit.
I wanted about Uniswap. We will see how it will go right now with the current legal case in US about when Uniswap, it's a class action, when Uniswap was selling securities unregistered. So we will see. Someone thinks that it is wrong. And now legislators have to come, now judges have to come with a solution, whether it's wrong or not, and we will see.
Well, but they may sue Uniswap Inc. But I'm talking about the smart contract. That thing's up there, and you're never going to kill it. And it's always going to work exactly the way it was programmed to work.
But I wanted to tell you, see, users can bring up if they think that something is going wrong. And then they go to the judiciary asking, can you judge, can you come up and say, is it wrong or not? And then probably depends how the smart judiciary will be the explanation and ruling. We will see if whether it should be done something.
Okay, how do you collect a judgment from a Uniswap contract?
That we will see.
Okay,
That's a challenge.
Ajit.
So instead of saying the word regulation so broadly, let us look at some of the areas that regulators would want to regulate. I'm not trying to be comprehensive here, but things like tax. They want to tax what we do. They want to have a record of what we do. In some countries, capital flight is a concern, etc. So the question then becomes, in DeFi, can you do it? Pretty much like you can do it in the banking system. Now, that is where several countries have been innovative in different ways. I'm going to ignore a small subset of countries which have outright taken a very extremely negative stand and for all practical purposes banned crypto, right? These are very small and very few countries. But if you look at large countries, primarily like the US or how UK used to be till recently, they did not necessarily enact new laws. MiCA came in recently, so that changes things. They read their existing laws to include some of what we do here. So for instance, all of these cryptocurrency exchanges like Coinbase, which are listed and operate in the US, barring in Hawaii and New York State, they don't have a cryptocurrency exchange license. They have a money transferer's license. And money transfer law has been around forever. Then there were small nations such as Malta, Estonia, and a few other Cayman Islands, etc., which actually created new regulations. And of course, the pinnacle of that is Dubai, which has created a regulator, which is the virtual assets regulator, a regulatory authority. So different regulators are going to approach it differently. But in terms of whether it can be regulated, even though there may be no Uniswap Inc., even though Bitcoin itself doesn't know it exists, but the way regulators are approaching this now is saying, okay, you can't regulate Bitcoin, you can regulate buyers, sellers, and intermediaries of Bitcoin. So they are going that route. They are going the ecosystem route as opposed to saying, who is Mr. Bitcoin? I need to talk to him.
Fair enough. Okay, now I'm gonna ask the last question to the panel before we release the hounds to dessert and coffee and whatever and dinner. For the whole group, I remember DeFi Summer. I remember getting very excited about it. And then I remember about 20 hacks in a row that drained the coffers, and including some really big ones that got some people very upset and caused some people to kill themselves. I mean, it's serious. All right, these things are not perfect, and these smart contracts have flaws, and people do interesting economic and governance attacks. So even if a contract, what I got from watching all these hacks was these things are, to some extent, derivative. People just copy and paste smart contracts, stack them together, make an evil stew, don't even understand how they're working, and there's a rush to market. How can this thing take over? What are we going to do? And don't give me just like security needs to get better kind of thing. I know that. What do we actually do about this?
So I think So I think that's what we are doing. So there are definitely a lot of challenges with DeFi. I would say where the tech is, that's definitely one major thing, and it's definitely at a very, very nascent stage. Now, if you want to draw an analogy with the crypto itself, you can see that, let's go back in 2015, 2016, right? There was no DeFi, but the crypto exchanges, they were getting hacked left, right, center. We're not. Now you don't hear that a lot of crypto exchanges. I mean, sometimes, FTX, they get hacked or something, but now you don't hear that the crypto exchanges are getting hacked a lot. You go back to 2015 and see that how many crypto exchanges used to get hacked. It's what it is. It is simply the evolution of technology or the evolution of the process now which centralized exchanges have evolved themselves. So now they are not, now they are able to protect themselves. And that's where we are pushing for the smart contracts. We need to definitely improve the tech. So that's one part of it. Second, is kinds of the user experience that becomes very important if we want to get this adopted. And again, like crypto, it's again in a very early stage. People need to understand this better in order to protect themselves from different kinds of, policies and scams, rug pulls, whatnot, which will come with the awareness. So essentially, I believe that the continuous evolution of the technology, awareness, and the improvement of user experience will ultimately be critical for.
If I will just operationalize what he's saying, see, the fact is, the best feature of DeFi / blockchain / Web3 is its composable natures. Lego blocks, download from GitHub, stitch it all together, and here is yet another protocol. The problem with this approach is that people have lost control and track. So we are going to have to take a few steps back, come up with new original coding, come up with projects which have objective beyond just being one more ERC20 token, which can raise $1 million with great ease, as you could do in the previous bull market. And if I may dare to say so, I think that I'm not speaking against any of the people on this panel. I think that also a little less cowboy-like approach of the Web3 / DeFi founders themselves.
A little less what approach?
Cowboy approach.
Cowboy. Or if you're in the East, Cossack. Okay, go.
So if we look at the point from hacking point of view, there is nothing unhackable in life, in technology, let's say. Look at the centralized banks or centralized exchanges or whatever. A lot of hacking story happened. Same, it is happening also in the decentralization. But there is a little bit media focus more in the decentralized world than the centralized one. When something happened there, it gets a lot of focus on media. When it happened in the centralized market, it doesn't get that attention. Let's look at the speculations when we see it at the crypto. Ups and down, everybody is focusing on there, but nobody talk a lot about some very huge and big international companies, their market share or stock value going minus 81%, minus 51%. Nobody is talking about this. They focus more about the decentralization, which is we need to have some balance. This also connected to your previous question regarding the regulation, should it or not. And I have one small statement for this. I can say, whenever there is fiat to crypto or crypto to fiat, it should be regularized. Whenever it is crypto to crypto, actually, it's not about should be or not. It cannot be regularized.
So the arguments I'm hearing boil down to, don't worry, it's getting better, number one, and number two, don't worry, it's also bad in traditional finance.
Yes,
So it's not.
Exactly.
I'm going to poke at your answer. I'm going to poke at it. Okay? Yes, traditional finance is both subject to security issues and corruption. We saw that with Danske Bank being a conduit to, launder lots of Russian money, and you see it all. You see it all the time. But there's a subtle difference, in my opinion, which is okay. When I'm staying up here. Everyone made us wait, so we're going to finish this. So when a bank gets hacked, let's just stick with hacks. When a bank or an exchange gets hacked, it's someone made something work the way it's not supposed to and got it. When a DeFi contract gets hacked, someone took advantage of the way it is written. If code is law and everything is happening the way it's meant to happen, they use it the way it's meant to be used, just not the way the designer came up with. But they didn't add code necessarily. They just used it as it was and took advantage of what was written there. I don't think it's quite the same. And I think that there's...
It's not the same. I agree with you. It's not the same. But does this happen in the centralized world? It happened both. What I want to say that this market, it's growing very fast. I'm talking about decentralized. It's very early that we come fast and we want to judge it now. Let the tools evolve. Let the technology come with more mature tools, with more AI, with more machine learning, with more amazing tools until it's settled and it is stable. Before, as I mentioned just minutes ago, when we talk about the online banking or e-commerce, they had a lot of problems at the beginning, a lot of challenges. People, they lack trust. They don't want to put their credit cards online. They don't want to link with their bank account. But look at it now. Third party securing, third party insuring, third party taking the responsibility. We need these third parties a lot in the decentralized world to have more trust.
I think the headline is, if we care about this industry, from my point of view, we need to take responsibility for making it better. And then it will take its rightful place. All right, guys, I really appreciate you staying in this room. I know it's the end of the day. I know a lot's gone on. I know there was like a program change. I'll give you, please give the panel a round of applause, and then we'll give you a round of applause. And for our lovely audience. Love it. You guys are great. Really appreciate it. Group photo?
We enjoyed your questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.